right, welcome to What's Happening Now on KBLKRadio.com. Thank you for tuning in. This is your host, Bishop Bowser, and we're having a good, exciting, great show for you today. And, everybody should be listening to this. So right now, I want you to text some folks, at least 7 people. Get on the Twitter, tweet some folks, go to Facebook, live stream it or whatever you need to do. Start sending out the message. Let people know that we are on the air. And so today, ladies and gentlemen, this morning we have a good one. We have Mr. Nick Machione, Director of the County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency, and Miss Dale Fleming, Director of Office of Strategy and Innovation, also with the San Diego County Human Health Services Agency. And our topic this morning is we're going to be talking about promoting well-being and innovative services through Live Well San Diego. Now, if you want to call in, you can call in and join the conversation at 619-919-4745. Again, that number is 619-919-4745. And so we thank you for tuning in today. And before we get in, we're going to get right into this with our guests this morning. But I did, want to send out condolences to Jonathan DeGuzman's family, the officer that got killed on Thursday night. And also our prayers are going up for their family, and also to Officer Wade Irwin, who is still in the hospital right now. We're praying for his wife and child and friends and family, and praying for all the police officers out there in law enforcement here in San Diego, not just the San Diego Police Department, but also the sheriffs and the various officers in the various other cities like National City, Chula Vista, and so on. We never want to see anyone get hurt or harmed in this kind of way. I do believe that, we still need to continue the conversation and have some dialogue about this, community and law enforcement. And I don't know why it always has to be a us against them type deal, no matter what. And you always have your race baiters. You always have those who either hate on either side. There's people that don't care about what goes on in the community, and there's people that don't care what happens in law enforcement. And, I don't say we have to ignore those kind of people, but we can't buy into their narratives that they try to frame, whether it's about law enforcement or about the community. And a lot of times, what you find, especially when you look into the news and you see the various comments that people are making about all of this, most of the time, these folks, I'm wondering where they grew up and their background, because they tend to be, and excuse me for saying this, but ignorant, and don't really understand anything as far as what's going on in our communities and the relationships that are transparent. And even the media, I think the media needs to show more of how the community and law enforcement is working together. All the things that I've watched and seen on the news, no one talked about how the San Diego Compassion Project and CAS was out there at the hospitals, at both hospitals, the moment that we found out the officers were shot. And we was at both UCSD and Mercy Hospital there with the police officers, ready to pray, ready to serve, and ready to do whatever needs to be done. And we was there for about 12 to 4 in the morning. And then we went the next day to headquarters, took some food, took some water down there, went down to the Police Officer Association. And by the way, just want to get a shout out to the San Diego Police Officer Association, because they were very welcoming to us, and really appreciate them. And I mean, I had some negative views about the San Diego Police Officer Association, especially when we're dealing with policies and laws and things like that, because they're always opposing some of the reforms that we're trying to make within the criminal justice system. But they were, at this moment and at this time, they were very welcoming. They treated us like we were family. So I really got a new respect for them, and the Black Police Officer Association and the Latino Police Officer Association. All of them reached out to us while we were out there and so on. But you didn't see none of that in the media. The media doesn't really show how our communities are trying to work together and trying to build these bridges. So I'm hoping in the future, as we continue to have this dialogue, we can show more of a positive side. Yes, we got to dig deep and get to the root of some of these issues and problems, and have some discussions and start working towards solution. Chief Shelley Zimmerman, she came to a town hall at the George Stevens Center a couple weeks ago, I believe it was, and it was the first one that Myrtle Cole had with us. And by the way, our prayers go out for Myrtle Cole, because I know she's in the hot seat right now. She made some comments that the community need. Myself, I didn't like those comments either, but I do think that we need to sit down and talk. Sometimes we act on emotions and we don't really think things through. So we really got to think that through with Myrtle Cole. And not, I know we want to see her resign or whatever, but I don't think that's the wise thing to do at this moment. We should be able to sit down and talk and see what's in our heart and have some conversations and things like that. Now, I do feel that if whoever read those statements or wrote those statements for her, and if it was a staff, some heads need to roll, because they should have had her back on that one. But evidently, either she didn't listen or they set her up or allowed her to be set up, because you can't make those kind of statements and think that the community is not going to, there's not going to be an uproar in the community. And most definitely, I think that, we need to have some conversations, but let's not move too quickly, because that'll be a big vacuum to fill. If she just resigned today, then what? You have 20 people run for office, and then you end up getting someone in there that really doesn't even care about the community at all. And I do have to say this. Every time I went to Myrtle Cole, she had an open ear to listen, and she actually, helped us with some projects. And so, we appreciate her. But at the same time, the comments that she made were unacceptable. She did apologize. One of the things I always tell the church is that, we have to understand the difference between apology and repentance. Apologies, back in the 2nd century, when the Christians, when they were talked about, they had to go in hiding because they were persecuted. And, so they had church in catacombs and in secret and so on. So people really didn't know too much about Christians. So one of the things that they would do is they begin to say negative things about them and evil things about them. And they would begin to say, oh, they're having orgies and they're cannibals, and they all are saying all these negative things about them. And one of the things that started happening is that a lot of the Christian leaders started writing letters to defend their faith and explain, what they really were about. And they called those apologists, and so they arguing and defending their faith. So we don't want to apologize. We want to see that she repented and that she truly in her heart has turned and recognized this wrong. And that was the wrong kind of statement to make. And let's see how we can move forward in making some real changes. If she doesn't want to make real changes, then, folks got to do what they got to do. And so on. But with back to Shelley Zimmerman, we did have a good conversation at the town hall, and there's some folks that wanted to have a follow-up. So I had actually called Shelley Zimmerman last week, and she had given us some dates for some meetings, and then right after that, this happened. And so I know she's not going to be able to meet this week that's coming up, because we were going to meet this Thursday or Friday, but because we know what she's going through, what she's dealing with in her department. But I hope as soon as possible we can continue this dialogue dealing with community and police relations, because we have to, we want to build healthy relationships, and we want to build this bridge, because what I've seen, a person that's kind of caught in the middle of everything, I see on the community side where community many times don't trust the police, but then on the other end of it, I see the police don't trust the community either. So it has to be fair game on both sides, where both parties open up, because sometimes even with myself, people don't trust me in the community. Oh, I don't know about Pastor Bowser, he over there standing with the police, and then the police say, I don't know about Pastor Bowser, he over there with those gangsters, so I get it on both ends, and all I'm trying to do is help, and make a difference, walking on both sides, trying to build those bridges, and sometimes that's what happens, you get caught in the middle of it. So we most definitely are praying for the officers and praying for the families and law enforcement in general and our communities. Someone, there was an article in the Union Tribune today, and I made a comment in there about, the police, the gang unit getting out there, and what people have been telling me, and the concerns is that now it's going to be kind of like open season on the community. And, put that, and, folks started making all kind of crazy statements, they supposed to crack down on the gang members and blah, blah. We said community. And you can interpret things the way you want to interpret things, and you can't base one statement that is said in the newspaper. Thank you, a newspaper on what was actually said. Now, one of the things that I did tell Pauline with the Union Tribune is that I'm a former gang member. And when I used to gangbang, I used to hate it that the police would stop me and harass me. But once I got out and looked back, I clearly understood, and my statement is always to gang members is that if you gangbang, they're supposed to stop you. Because I know when I was out there, I was into crime every day. And so they probably, by stopping me and harassing me and taking pictures and the whole shebang, it probably kept somebody from becoming a victim that day. So, those statements are also made, but you can't, so a lot of times when you read stuff in the paper, you just got to follow the narrative of what the points they're trying to make there. Don't start judging people and thinking that, people are taking certain positions on certain things, because, we love everybody. We love our community, and we love law enforcement. And hopefully one day we don't have to say that. When we say we love our community, it includes everybody, including law enforcement, because they are a part of the community and they are a great resource to the community. We need law, and I don't want to say law and order because that kind of has some racial connotations to it. Go back to the 40s and 30s when they started saying that in the 50s and want to crack down on civil rights organizations, things like that. We've got to have law and order. So, don't want to really get that. But we do need a civil society, and we do have to deal with the crime element in our community. So most definitely are for that, for law enforcement coming in and policing, but it should be building relationships too. And, if we build relationships, know who's who, you'll know who a gang member, who's not a gang member. And then when you stop folks, they know who they're stopping and who they're dealing with. And even with the gang members, they know the ones that are changing and turning their lives around versus the ones that are still out there murdering and robbing and stealing and all those type of things. All right. So we're going to go ahead and we got a few minutes left, and I want to jump right into this real quickly. But we have Mr. Nick Machione and we have Dale Flemings with us. And so, first of all, I want to say to you, Mr. Machione, welcome to What's Happening Now. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Bishop. It's an honor. In fact, it feels like I'm already at church. So I'm going to count this morning being in the show here with you for being in church.
Amen. Welcome, Ms. Dale Fleming.
Thank you, Bishop. It's great to be here.
And it's a pleasure to have you guys on the show. And so now, can each of you, and we begin with you, Mr. Machione, can you tell us what is your role with the County of San Diego?
Yes, and Bishop, I think you described much of faith in action in helping the community. My role and role with Dale and working for county government with the Health and Human Service Agency is providing services to community in need, but looking up and building the strengths of the community, not necessarily the deficits. But we provide a whole array. There's about 6,000 employees of the Health and Human Service Agency serving the entire county, and really from cradle to grave and across and in between, we provide all type of programs, public health, immunization, mental health. That's a big issue. Maybe we'll talk about the issue around even assistance, helping people get health insurance, people access to food. We provide all the aging programs and also the veterans programs. But we also are, and I'll have Dale talk about briefly, we are also in programs and supporting and working with community development. You talked about the Compassion Project, so we're proud to be part of that with you. But supporting programs that are helping uplift the community, and so our programs for our Community Action Partnership is something that we oversee, and Dale's very involved. So it's a whole array of programs, and then that's why we believe strongly about it's not to people, it's with people. It's San Diegans helping San Diegans, and we're part of the community.
Exactly. Miss Dale Fleming.
Yeah, thank you, Bishop. I'm the director of the Office of Strategy and Innovation, and in that role, I am also the executive director of Community Action Partnership, and that's a program that was lifted up by Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1964. If anybody saw the movie Selma, the argument there was Martin Luther King wanted him to pass the Civil Rights Act first, and he wanted to do some other things. So the program that I run is one of the other things he wanted to do. So after he passed the Civil Rights Act, he passed an act to really develop this community action network across the country that requires you to have a board that talks about what are the needs in the community, and it's working in economically disadvantaged communities, raising them up and helping the people that live there and helping them to create sustainable solutions to their problems. Another role that I play in this office is oversight of the Live Well San Diego vision that we'll probably be talking about a little bit later. I do some media, some policy, and I have some special projects that are a passion of mine: trauma-informed systems integration and Live Well communities. Yeah. So we have some great stuff going on.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and take this break, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned with us. Stay with us. We'll be right back after these brief commercials. We're back. Welcome to What's Happening Now on KBLKradio.com, and thank you for staying with us. And we're going to continue our conversation with Mr. Mascione, Mr. Mascione, and I'm always getting names wrong here, so you guys got to forgive me, and Miss Fleming. But I have a question for both of you all. And how long have you been with the county?
Well, Bishop, for me, I came to the county, left Newark, New Jersey in 1997. I was, at that time, Dr. Bob Ross. I was here, was the director of the health department in 1996. And they were, that's when they were talking about creating an integrated agency, taking all the different parts and really putting it together.
Right.
Because we needed to see a whole person, not the different pieces like the departments were. Yeah. So that excited me. And I came here in July of 1997 and worked, helped him with the AIDS department. We had some issues, worked with AIDS in the first 6 months, and then became the first deputy director of the then newly created Health and Human Service Agency. Did that for about 10 years. And then in 2008 is when I became agency director. But Dale got me beat out. I think she's been here longer.
Yes, I started with the county in 1985, March 1985, so I've been there for over 30 years. And I started...
And still smiling.
Yeah.
She's still smiling.
I am. My career has gotten more interesting the closer I get to the end of it, oddly enough.
Getting towards retirement?
Yeah, I am, but I can't retire yet because I have so many interesting things that I'm working on now, important things. But I started out as an eligibility worker, and that's a person who does applications for public assistance. And then I moved literally up the ranks from there and moved more into the policy area and writing the rules for others and doing research. And then that's when I started doing special projects. I brought the team that I worked on brought the EBT card, the Advantage card that people use. We were one of the first counties in California to use that as an experiment. So I was on that project. I've been on a few welfare reform projects, bringing the agency together. I oversaw the first strategic plan that we worked on there. So I really do like that opportunity to be creative and innovative, but for a purpose, not just because, so that it makes a difference in people's lives. And so now I'm working as an executive director again to kind of coordinate the Live Well vision, the Live Well San Diego vision, but also working on Live Well communities. Which is where we're looking at a few communities across our region that we see could use additional support and assistance to really realize that Live Well vision the way we want it for everyone. So it's really about health equity, disparities, and disproportionality. And our first stop on that road is in the Southeast community. And as I told you this morning, I was born and raised in Southeast, and I plan to retire Southeast. So I've invested interest in the success of that initiative. And then I'm also working on something called trauma-informed systems integration, where we're trying to become more cognizant of the effect of experiences in children's young lives, how it affects their adult life.
Oh, yeah.
So certain things like divorce, like being in a home where you don't feel loved or cared for, where you've gone through economic strife or anything like that, that has a physical impact on you as well as your well-being, and it manifests itself later in life in things like high blood pressure and other chronic conditions that shorten our lives.
Right.
So what we're trying to do. So if you don't do anything about that, then that's the end, right?
Now, do you guys with the children and what you do? You follow them, or I guess you talk with adults sometimes. Look back at their childhood.
Yes, adults looking back. Yeah.
So, do you all work with children? Because I know one of the things I was thinking about when you was talking about that is one of the props that we're trying to get passed, which is Prop 57, and one of the pieces is moving the power from prosecutors to judge in the sense of determining whether an individual between the age of 14 and 18 can be tried as an adult. And one of the things that this proposition will call for, if it passed and the judge makes that decision, is the judge would have to look at that individual's background, all the things that you just mentioned, whether it's trauma that the individual is upbreaking, parenting, this home environment,
Right.
community you live in, the things you witnessing, that to make a decision to determine that, and so on. And so I think that's very important that we do that, and so on.
Yeah.
So you guys looking at all children and adults, or just adults and go back to children?
Well, what we want to do is create environments for the young children so we can quickly address if bad things happen to everybody.
Right.
But sometimes people make a comeback faster than others.
Yeah,
Resilience.
yeah, exactly.
So we want to build the resilience of the kids so that if you go through something bad, we want to avoid that. That's one way to work
Right.
at it. But if you do go through something bad, how can we help you make a stronger and faster comeback? And it's about supports, and often those supports are in the community, in the church, within that family structure, in the school. So that's what we're trying to work together as a region to do that.
And thank you. That's Joan.
Bishop, let me give you a real concrete example.
Okay.
When I went to undergrad at Rutgers in a place called Newark,
I
New
heard of
Jersey.
Rutgers.
Yeah, Rutgers, Newark. Paul Robeson Center on MLK. And during the 80s, what I saw, is that the main issue that they were confronted back then is an issue we have forward now, a couple decades today, the breakdown of the family unit.
Right.
And so what we saw in Newark a lot with the gangs and so forth is that they weren't providing supports to the families
Right.
when they were in crisis. I was a latchkey kid. My parents worked. I was a hustler, having to work at a young age too. We were immigrants, and that's how we were going to
Right.
survive. But by the faith of God, there were other people in the community that were kind of those mentors to us, right? There was a lot of intergenerational mentoring. Some of the elders saying, "Listen, you juvenile, you gotta get yourself in order, or else you're one notch away from being,
Right.
sent up the upstate." So we had those natural supports. So it had shaped me.
Okay.
In my career, as it has for Dale, who's seen this in thousands of families, and
Right.
saying, why aren't we trying to help the families when they're presenting, even with the kids at a young age? So, in San Diego, today, our African American community is about, 8% of the
I
general
think
population?
About 6%, 5-6%.
6%, okay. And yet the number of African American children in child protection services is like 23%.
Yeah, lot. Yes.
So, what's up with that?
Right.
Shows what's up, what's going on. So what's up? So
Right.
that was the part we looked at and said, this is not acceptable.
Okay.
So what others would say is give lots of reasons, excuses. We are working with Cecil Stepp and Save Our Children, and said, well, what is it we can do? And they looked at a model in Fresno about 8 years ago that basically said, you know what? What if when a family started having issues with young children, you intervene with an elder as kind of a third party, a convener, a cultural broker
Okay, I've heard
that works with the community, right?
Right,
Kind of like
right.
what we're doing with the gangs, but this is what children. And I said, you know what? That's the right thing to do. So I'll fast forward and tell you, we have now increased the funding cultural brokers, and they're showing improvements by doing what? When a family, any family, but particularly our focus in the Southeast is families of color, particularly African American because of disproportionality,
Yeah.
they're saying, what can we do to help so we don't remove the child?
Right.
Because what we then begin to see is this escalation. We know that adults that are in the correctional system, a majority have touched child welfare in their lives.
Yeah.
Not all,
Absolutely.
but a majority.
Yeah.
So we got something, we're going way upstream to saying, if we want to strengthen our community, we have to help strengthen our families.
Right.
And we can't be
Wrap around it.
Wrap
Yes.
around it.
Mhm.
So that's an example of bringing community together, supporting a nonprofit. In this case, it's working with Urban League through the cultural brokers, but we're funding them, and they're basically working with our social workers and the family and keeping families together. In fact, hopefully making families stronger when they take that downturn and they need some help.
Right. Now, Mr. Machion, I would like that to go. What, like, when you look, maybe after you retire, or the legacy that you leave behind, what would you like to pass on to future generations?
First and foremost is that government is not the solution per se.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Government is, and the services of government are there to help enable. So this concept that it's about partnerships, and you mentioned it, Bishop, that we will only know community when we see all of us in the community.
Right. Right.
And the partnerships have to be with purpose and passion for people. So the legacy I want to leave behind, what we're trying to all do together, is that it requires all of us, not some of us.
Right. Right.
And it's about San Diegans helping San Diegans.
Exactly.
Not judging where you're at.
Right.
That you either speak a different language or dress differently or eat differently. All right? All right? But that we're all and celebrate diversity. So that maybe it's, people today it's a little bit idealistic. I don't think so. I think we can be in a place where for Live Well San Diego, that we say we only can live well when we all live well. So my hope is, and what our push and dream and our passion is to getting all San Diegans sharing the same ability and path to living well.
All right. That's awesome. Ms. Fleming, can you tell us a little bit about Live Well San Diego?
Sure. Live Well San Diego. In 2010, our board adopted a vision for the region. That it's just a single vision that we're a region that's building better health, living safely, and thriving. And this is bigger than what our board of supervisors can do. We have 18 cities that have their own things going on. We have 42 school districts. We have 3.2 million people. Lots of businesses.
How many people?
3.2 million? Across the entire county.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a lot of people. It's beyond just county government's ability to deliver on that vision. So it involves partners across all sectors, business, faith, and community-based organizations, schools, and K through 12, as well as college institutions, and business, to really come together, align to that vision, do what they can, what they're best at in their own way, but working together, learning from one another, moving forward together to make this region really the best that it can be. And as Nick said, so that every person in this region has the opportunity to live well. And it's doing things like creating better service delivery systems, like promoting positive choices by individuals, and then creating the policies and the environments that will make those positive choices easier to make. And then finally, with work site wellness, getting all three components of that vision through changing the culture within. So if we get you at school, we get you at work, we get you in your faith, we get you in your community, in your household, we can all have those opportunities to live well and really to achieve, a great quality of life.
Now, and I know in the midst of everything you all just said, you probably already answered this question, but I do want to ask it, and whoever want to answer it, why is Live Well so important to you all? Live Well San Diego.
Well, I think we both can answer to that.
Okay.
I want to answer.
For me, when I immigrated to this country, my family wasn't living well.
Okay.
And being segregated, we were Italians, and we had, primarily at this community, a place called West New York, New Jersey, but it was, Cubans, Puerto Ricans, Yugoslavian refugees, Italians, and it was a certain dominant rule of another ethnic class. And so what I saw was the struggles of people coming in who didn't understand language, didn't have the resources, but worked hard. And the nucleus that made families persevere is one another. So for me, it basically molded and shaped me and getting me in this path around public service and making sure that the disadvantages we had that were created by the system were not something we were going to enable. In fact, the opposite, that we were going to create a community by the people for the people,
Right.
where, as we talked about earlier before the show, that, in the presence, and you talked about this in the opening of the show, in the presence of violence, you can't achieve health.
That's right. That's right.
So in the North Ward of Newark, when we were trying to deal with families afflicted by HIV at that time, they weren't thinking about getting to many medical appointments. They're worried about their safety by both law enforcement and gangs.
Right.
And so we had to work through that because we weren't going to get to the health if it was a community that was a sense of not security or, in fact, indeed, violence. So I've been shaped and been in communities to say we want to make sure that like we all have, waking up in the morning, we got clean water, safe water.
Yep.
Right?
I like family.
And that we have safe communities, that we have access to fresh food.
Yes.
For all of us, not some of us.
Right.
And healthcare.
And let me just interject because that's a very important point because I know one of the things is, especially with poor folks, is that, you can't, even myself sometimes, you struggle to, because you know what eating right is all about, what types of foods you have to buy, but those are some of the most expensive foods out there. And can you imagine someone that's just struggling to make ends meet? And I used to do that many times, would just go buy the cheapest stuff because I want to eat and have to have something to get me through the week.
Yeah.
But a lot of times as you begin to understand and discover health and nutrition, you begin to realize that this stuff is not good for me. It's cheap. That's why it's cheap.
Yeah, and that's that tenet of making that good, positive choice the easier choice to make. And so that's why we're working with community partners to create more local farmers markets, to remove these what they call food deserts, to make it easier for grocers, your local grocer, to bring in the fresh food and so forth. And really then to teach folks how you can make the most out of the resources that you have, how you can purchase it, how you can prepare it, how you can stretch it, all the way through. All the way, and reuse it, and how long you can store it and keep it, all the way through how you can compost it and create your own garden and things like that. So trying to get back to those basics. And I want to jump in and say why I'm interested in this Live Well vision. I was telling you earlier, I was born and raised in Southeast, and I'm going to retire to Southeast. I'm a San Diego native, and I love all parts of this region, and I want everybody to experience that, to have that opportunity, to have that hope, to see something bigger than what they are right now, and so that hard work, can get you the things that have got my parents, which is some time with the family, being able to work, make a decent living, come home, have time with the family, and whatever your family looks like. Family compositions are different now. So regardless of what your family looks like, if you bolster your single parent family, as I have one, we've raised our children as a village. So, letting people to have that sense of community and not isolation, and loving one another the way that you've demonstrated or talked about with being on both sides, so that there is just one side.
Exactly.
And the side is us. That's what I want. That's what I want. So it's big, I guess. Maybe people think it's hokey or whatever, but I live here and I'm going to stay here, and that's what I want to see at the end of the day.
And Bishop, I want to touch on something because you're key, and that is the issue about access but affordability.
Okay.
So, one of the things with Live Well San Diego is we got now partners. These are people. It's not about exchanging any money, but we said, look, no one of us can make the community achieve wellness.
Right.
By the collective, we can make a difference.
Absolutely.
A measurable difference.
Absolutely.
So we've gotten, one partner, I'll give a shout out, in Northgate Gonzalez Market, who said, you know what, we want to be able to have affordable, quality food, nutritious.
Right.
And they took it a step further by even giving classes at their markets, good food, and providing the free services, blood pressure screening, cooking classes, teaching folks who may be on food assistance, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, CalFresh, we call it, how to survive on CalFresh, but in an affordable but nutritious way. What I tell folks is when they come in for help, we shouldn't make the problem worse.
Right.
Because then they're not eating.
Now, let me ask you something. What is the difference? Can you tell us a little bit about CalFresh and CalWorks? Whoever.
Sure. CalFresh is a nutrition assistance program. So you take the benefit from that card, and you can spend it at the grocers on food products, on seeds to grow food, but you can't purchase other things you need, like diapers or
Have to be food.
Yeah, it has to be food. But on that same benefit card, if you're a family with children and you're at low income and you've applied, then you can also receive CalWorks, which is cash assistance, and it's loaded on that same card. So the other things that you need to purchase and pay for your rent and other cash needs that you have, you can use there. So there are two different programs loaded on a single card and available. We administer them. One person can help you with both things.
And Dale, where can, just because for the show is great, for people that may need some help, where can they go?
Oh,
besides calling 211,
Right.
Literally dial 211. If they dial 211 right now, if they want to test it, there's someone to begin that application process.
Right there.
Right.
And we've been, come on, you're part of this. Come on now, invest in our families.
Absolutely.
We're getting the word out. We got to get the word out. We're out there and trying to get as many people just to, even if you don't know, just call, go through the process.
There's multiple pathways. So now we have the phone, call 211. We have online Cal Benefits, or Benefits CalWin. Benefits CalWin, that's online. We have in office the old school way. We have about 10 or 12 offices around the entire county. And then we can do the application process by mail. If you go online, you can download an application and you can turn it in by mail. And you can work with some of our trusted community-based partners, and they will help you with the application process. People in among the Food Hunger Coalition and clinics can help you with Medi-Cal. So we have, CalWorks, CalFresh, Medi-Cal, trying to get your cash assistance, nutrition assistance, and health care.
Now, let me, because, there are some statements I heard, and I always think about San Diego from the perspective, because I know we came down there through one organization that I work with, SDOP, San Diego Organizing Project. And we came and spoke before the supervisors, Board of Supervisors, about being able to get more people signed up because we saw that San Diego was lagging behind. But one of the things that I know I hear, and I just want you all's opinion on this based on what you experienced or seen, you hear commentators or different folks on the TV and media, because they may have issues with President Obama, say, oh, there's more people on welfare now, under Obama, and so on. Do you all see that in the county of San Diego?
One of the things in 2008, and I became agency director, and then shortly after, we had two great things happen. One, I got Dale, and two, we got President Barack Obama in office.
All right.
So I put Dale. You see, Dale, you put the president. Now, okay?
That's right.
For us, you have in our community. But here's the thing: we were not doing well
Okay. Okay.
as a government
Okay.
and helping people in need. And then the economy went down and it got worse.
Wow.
And so we were at a point back then saying, how do we make it easier? Because some people said, well, there was long waits. You may have heard that. There were people waiting for hours, making multiple visits. It was not good.
Right.
So we said, we have to change that. We have to make it easy. We have to get immediately to people in need. People losing jobs, people weren't eating.
That's right.
So
That's right.
we, at that point, started looking at this issue about where people can call in, mail, but at the same time, we had this avalanche of humanity of need. And so we had to kind of work the system to create it where it was easy. But
Right.
during that time, there was a lot of critics because they were saying weren't getting enough folks enrolled.
Gotcha.
So I'll fast forward and tell you now, San Diego and I has been praised by the governor's office,
Okay. Brown.
by Governor Brown,
Okay.
by his staff about a model program. Why? Because we've been able to use all of our our food partners for food security access points all over. Secondly, very importantly for us was how do we ensure we get to all folks?
Yeah.
So we have, there's been folks that have looked at of who's eligible, and this is the issue, and I think we've had this conversation, is that there are some people per the federal government that are not eligible.
Right.
If you do not have legal status,
Wow.
you're not eligible. And
Even
we
if
have
you-
yes,
yeah.
even if you live here, go to school, if you do not have legal status as an adult, you can't per federal rules. But what happens is when people look in people in need, they put everyone in that denominator, and that's
Gotcha.
correct.
Gotcha.
But then they say, "Oh my God, look how many folks you don't have in."
Okay.
But when you look at the people
Makes
that
sense.
are eligible, right, and then you look at who we have enrolled, we're at 91%.
Gotcha. Okay.
But there's still 9% that is not.
Right.
So we're
Right.
not resting
That's
on our
right.
laurels.
Yeah.
We're getting out there. We've actually been a faith organizations trying to do enrollment. We're trying to work with our pastors. We're trying to work with all the access points. And just like Governor Brown, they passed a recent Senate bill that actually now gives health insurance, state-only Medicaid, to undocumented children.
Wow.
I don't know if you know that. And we're one of the leaders in the state linking undocumented children into Medicaid.
Yeah, because it ain't there for whatever's going on.
So what's remaining is adults for health insurance undocumented, but this issue of also if you're not a legal resident. So what do we do with that population? That's where our food bank, that's where our other partners come in and provide food assistance to folks who are not eligible for the program but
They're
need
part
to
of the
eat.
community. Yeah. After. So I know we're because we're running out of time. I do want I got a lot. I'm gonna have to get you guys back.
We'd love to be
but I have
back.
a lot of questions. But I do want to get to some of the funding because I know in our communities, especially in Southeast San Diego, that's one of the big issues. As we were talking earlier, even with Kahala Fakim, Harmonious Solutions, where we came in here, but he moved out. And that was lacking that financial support that he needed. And ended up, I don't want to say he didn't shut down, but you have a lot of organizations like that are closing shop because they don't have the financial support. And there's a couple things I want to ask about, but questions I want to ask is, how much funding do you award to innovative programs?
I don't know that we have like a dollar figure because we do a lot in the little pockets across. But in the Community Action Partnership, we have, I'd say we have about almost $300,000 we're looking at in very small projects to lift up, in particular, the Southeast community. Project MOST, which is technical assistance for minority-owned and supported. It's supportive and technical assistance for them, training them how to build their business, develop funding and revenue streams, strategic planning, just trying to uplift the smaller grassroots programs so they can be sustainable. And then we saw that violence came up as a barrier to economic improvement. So
Right.
we piloted the Peacemakers program with some revenue there, about 75,000 there. We invested in Connect to Careers which is a workforce partnership program, but we asked them to focus in on youth, disadvantaged youth in particular zip codes. So that's an innovation part of
Right.
an existing program.
Gotcha.
So those are some of the things we're doing. Another, we're doing one with a program that's going to teach residents how to advocate on their own behalf, in particular for more walkable and bikeable communities and safety. But then we have another program where we're just teaching resident leaders how to advocate and be part of the system and have a seat at the table, and present their case using data, knowing who to go to take that case and what change you want to advocate for.
Now,
So
how do you get more money into that? You said 200,000 or 300,000.
we're in that small program that we have. We're using federal dollars and a combination of county dollars. So we're trying to direct that towards these needs in the community in a more innovative way. But overall, I think there's some other opportunities.
Yeah. So 1997, the first person I met when I came here in the community was Cleo Malone.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And Cleo and Palavitry. And Cleo said, and I only knew him in the first hour, but he knew a brother of mine in Newark to vouch for me.
Okay.
From the Bethany Baptist Church in Newark, and he said, "You got to commit." Now I wasn't agency director; I was just working with the agency department. He said, "You got to commit. You will not forget about Southeast."
Look at that.
So we've never forgotten about Southeast. And so what we have done in the last years is not just go after the innovation funds and
Right.
set-asides. The bulk of the money that's categorical.
Right.
We want to make sure it's coming to where the need is.
Right.
So mental health, behavioral health, aging, public health, the assistance programs, that it's not whatever's remaining, but that we're the need, the dollars
Gotcha.
follow the need.
Yeah.
So a case in point example, there was a large grant that came in for Be There, San Diego,
Okay.
to deal with heart disease and stroke, with particularly African American community.
Right.
We said, we'll support you, but you have to work it. And they're working with Dr. Rodney Hood.
Dr. Hood, good
Okay?
man. Yeah.
So we're beginning to alter and make sure that programs of funding come into the community directly. But importantly, is what you lead passionately with your passion too. But we want to make sure it's communities in Southeast.
Right.
And that's why we're working with Dr. Warren
Okay.
and Voice of Viewpoint. We've had forums at the Jacob Center about technical assistance.
Gotcha.
About how do you navigate the system?
Right.
How do you prepare so that we can have strong, vibrant providers
Right.
that don't fall, but that they're growing? And we build that here, and it's not outside groups serving Southeast; it's Southeast groups serving Southeast.
Now that you brought that up, because I keep hearing about this, and nobody can give me all five, and maybe it's just a myth. But when it comes to funding, I keep hearing about the big five who receive huge amount of funding. Is there such a group, and who are they?
In Southeast, you mean? Well, I think
Well, no, in San Diego County altogether.
County.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not familiar with the big five, and I think they may be talking about five categories. They may
Okay.
be talking about hospitals and clinics and that sort of thing. But in terms of because we got Family Health Center here,
Right.
they have a big presence, right?
Right.
So they get a lot of funding providing the health care.
Gotcha.
So if they're looking at that, that's true. But in terms of five nonprofits, I'm not aware of that because we don't play that.
I got you.
Because we want to make sure that they have to go through a competitive process. And again, I would say we're even singling out, trying to get out the word in Southeast. We have targeted some of our funding, for example, in mental health, the faith community. We said it was going to go out in Escondido area and Southeast.
Right.
So
Right.
we're even channeling funding in areas that need it.
Exactly.
But so that doesn't go to providers; it goes by need.
Right. Now, and I'm glad you said that. Are there areas or topics of particular interest that the county values regarding funding values?
The more recent one, significant one, that we're indirectly involved with is the restorative justice.
Okay.
That
Absolutely.
came out very loud and clear with the board, the
Right.
budget hearing.
Right.
But for us in the Health and Human Service Agency directly is behavioral health. It's mental health.
Gotcha.
And we have seriously mentally ill folks and people with substance abuse that are homeless.
Mm-hmm.
There's about 8,700 countywide. Majority of those are in the city of San Diego.
Wow.
We have communities of people that are also in Southeast.
Mm-hmm.
So putting housing and services for that population is a major priority. The other one is what I was talking about in terms of strengthening families. Making sure we provide services, family, and struggling keeping families. And again, the other is the community development of jobs.
Right. Right. Awesome. So, looking at recent past grantee investments that you have made, what projects really stand out to you and why?
The work that we're doing with peacemakers
Well, thank
really
God.
stands out. Well, I read those reports and I see what the need is, and I think that's important that we're making a difference in people's lives.
Absolutely.
So that work stands out to me. And Project Mo stands out to me because when we solicited, when we put out that contract for people to answer to, we had 60 people come and apply, and hands down we were easily able to select Rise San Diego. So it was very gratifying that somebody from the community would then train businesses in the community. So that was through a competitive process. So I was like really happy about that one.
And Bishop, I add real quickly, the Live Well communities, and I hope you have us back so we can come back. Just speak on Live Well communities is something passionate that Dale and I are, and that part of that is a large part of that is that cultural brokers, which I think it'd be great to have the Save Our Children or members of that cultural brokers be on the show to talk about.
Give us the information. We'll contact you.
Yeah, we will, because
Absolutely.
that's another program about it's by the community, for the community, strengthening families in
Right.
Southeast.
That's awesome. And I'll do that because I know one of the individuals that are with them, and I know they're doing great work over there and so forth. So, what new priorities in the county, considering that you consider as a part of your plan for the next 5 to 10 years? Do you have any new priorities?
Live Well communities is a priority.
That's it.
We wrote stop one is at Southeast, and then we were going to hit probably about 5 other pockets of need around the region. But
And then for the other one is how do we increase our presence in Southeast in the sense of welcome presence, not unwelcome, but to bring more county programs in Southeast. That is the priority.
Awesome. So that leads me to this. So how does an organization build a true relationship with the county and become a long-term partner?
I would say through our Live Well San Diego leadership teams. There are 5 of them around the county. Here in this area, Central Region, the leader is Barbara Jimenez. And Barbara is to this community.
Barbara. Yeah.
Barbara is to this community what Nick is to the region.
Okay.
So she's kind of overseeing
Gotta
all of
connect
those.
with her.
Yeah,
Build
connect
those
with her and really get into there and see how you can fit in and hear about the opportunities coming up in the community for financial participation.
Okay. And what about is it Amelia?
Yes, Amelia works for Barbara.
Okay. Okay. So that's all part of the same team.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we connect. Just gotta get more connected and build that and let people know to
Yes.
really get in there and start building those relationships with that. So I know we have about a minute left. So is there anything that any of you want to add from? And I know we got to get you back and talk more about Live Well, especially since that's the centerpiece of everything.
And I want to just say thank you immensely, Bishop Bowser, for what you're doing for the community. And I'd say what I'd like to add is that this is not about systems and institutions and nonprofits. This is about the people. So if there was one thing, we have something called the resident leadership. It's getting people like Dale's mom and regular folk in the community to want to know what's going on. So we can give them information as well, so they can ask the questions. They could be part of the solutions, where it's really the residents that are leading.
Gotcha.
not the institutions.
Gotcha.
So that's what's something that we're very passionate.
And I'm proud to be a county employee, but I know we can always do better. And so I look forward to working with community to make that happen.
All right, most definitely. Well, we thank you for staying with us and staying tuned, and tune in next week on Sundays at 9 o'clock a.m. to What's Happening Now on KBLKradio.com, where I want to thank Mr. Nick Machione, and I want to thank also Miss Dale Fleming for being on the show with us, and we will have you back. All right, God bless you, and we hope to hear from you. We hope you tune in with us next week again. God bless.